Hello there, welcome back. This is the sixth episode of Yuoki Industries. In this episode, we'll talk about energies as well as how to produce energy through Yuoki Industries. I will focus mainly on fuel. Okay, but before we get to the fuel, I'd like to tell you that the 5 episodes that have been filmed or recorded has already been posted to YouTube, so they are now available. As well as I've posted to the forum and announced it to Yuoki, so he's in the process of reviewing this. And he wanted me to add some clarifications on certain things. First thing was the dirt. So I explained very well how the dirt was used, but just that I left out that the dirt was in fact part of Yuoki Industries to help players not getting stuck. Okay, so let's say you spawn in a map and you don't have access to the green chunks or the blue chunks, then you could very well try to dig for the dirt. Okay, and from there you can wash the dirt to get the ore, some of the ore. So you can in some way proceed with playing with Yuoki Industries, even if you don't have access to the Yuoki raw materials. Second was about the green chunks themselves. So I said that green chunks was mainly used for energy production. Well, that is in fact true. It also has some uses in what he call, I guess, magnetic materials or electrical materials. As we proceed down the Yuoki Energies episodes, you will see that the green chunks are embedded within almost all of the recipes to do with accumulators or even the generators themselves in the form of orange stuff. So remember that orange stuff was a combination of both green chunks and blue chunks. So this is how the green chunks get involved in this electricity slash magnetic stuff. The other part was the blue chunks. So I talk about how the blue chunks were kind of like steel. Well, that is also true. But in general, the blue chunks is mainly a material that is meant for structural, right? So kind of like the iron plates or the steel of the vanilla factorial. So you mine this stuff mainly to make structures, chassis, frames, etc. And the last one was he wanted me to clarify the orange stuff. Orange stuff is kind of like a special material, right? It brings out some special property of either the blue chunks or the green chunks. So that was his the philosophy behind his designs. Okay. All right. So with that out of the way, we shall resume. And I've made several recordings of this episode, but I think this is like the third recording because I wasn't happy with how I explained the fuel. So hopefully this will be a good one, a good recording. So Yuoki Industries has a lot of fuel. This chest you can see, besides the basic fuel of the coal and raw wood here, what's missing here is of course solid fuel. So let me add that. You see that you can transform some of the vanilla fuel into other variants, right? So by the time that you are able to make solid fuel, you obviously have the technology already researched to process oil, right? And most of the time, if you're playing vanilla factorial, by this time you have run out of coal, and you are really dependent on oil as your main source of energy. Well, in Yuoki Industries, what Yuoki does is he tries to extend the lifetime of your coal patch, okay? And he does that by giving you these recipes of transforming the coal into coal dust that then you can compress to form the coal briquette. And if you compress the coal briquette further, then you get the coal stack, okay? You can do the same thing for raw wood. Raw wood is mainly a material that we throw away, right, as a factorial player, because, well, other than making electric poles or small wooden chests, it really has no use. So this is one of the other ways you can extend your fuel lines if you don't want to process oil into solid fuel, for example. So you can compress the raw wood into the wood briquettes, and then you can compress the wood briquettes into the packed wood briquettes. Okay. Now you'll be wondering, isn't all this processing actually decrease the fuel value? Uh, in real life, probably, but this is factorial. So we can stretch, reality a little bit. In this instance, if you are to grind the coal into the coal dust, you can actually gain a little bit of energy. Okay, and so this is the way in which you can stretch out your coal patch. Okay, that's the main reason. The other reason has to do with the fact that Yuoki Industries introduced several kind of boilers, and one of them are rather voracious in eating your fuel. And so if you feed it low quality fuel, that is fuel in the range of 4 or 5 megajoules, it will just simply make them vanish. Okay, and you may or may have not have noticed, but if you feed a boiler a fuel that is less than half its rated power rating in energy, let's say the boiler is 25 megawatt, and it's for the sake of its example, it's 100% efficient. Let's say it's 25 megawatts and 100% efficient. If you feed it fuel that is less than half of its rated power, that is in this case 12.5, yeah, 12.5 megajoules, then the boiler is not really running at its peak efficiency. The main reason has to do with the way in which vanilla factorial consume the fuel material in order to fill its internal buffer. If the material is kind of brittle, not enough energy density, then that buffer runs dry, and when it runs dry, it doesn't add energy to the fluid that's in its fluid box. Therefore, the fluid does not get heated to its maximum temperature or degree or whatever. So you actually decrease the efficiency of the boiler. Okay. Now, this is the reason why you have these transformation recipes here, because one of Yuoki's boiler, called the obelisk reactor, it has a 25 megawatt rating. It has a 90% efficiency, so it actually goes through your low quality fuel very fast. But if you feed it fuel that it's at least half its power rating, which is at least 12 megawatts or above, then it actually is a good thing for that boiler. Okay, that's why a lot of these other fuel types that you can transform from either coal or wood is at least higher than half of the power rating of the obelisk. Okay, so that's the second reason. So the first reason is to extend the lifetime of your coal patch, or the amount of wood that you have gathered from chopping down all the trees. Okay, so instead of giving you all the formulas, I wanted to show you that transformation of coal to this final form of coal stack is actually useful. Okay, so what I did here was I already did the transformation, but I can load in. So according to the formula, you can basically transform 4 coal into 6 coal dust. Alright, so this means that 2 coal gives you 3 coal dust. Okay, and in order to get the coal stack, you need 3 of the coal briquette. The coal briquette is made of 3 coal dust, so therefore 1 coal briquette is 2 coal. Okay, and therefore a coal stack is 6 coal dust. No, right? No, 9 coal dust. Excuse me. It's 9 coal dust. 9 coal dust divided by 3 times 2, so therefore it's 6 coal. So I went ahead and put in here 24 coal. Okay, because this number is divisible by 6. Okay, you needed a number that is divisible by 4 here, as well as a number that is divisible by 3. So 24. And we will now, you see this is full, so we'll just connect this to the grid and see how much energy we spend versus how much we get back. Okay. You notice that I fill all of this with efficiency modules. This is the critical part here. If you don't have efficiency modules, you will be spending energy needlessly, okay, in the intermediate processes. So as soon as this is done, I'm going to disconnect the grid and find out how much energy we have spent. Okay, so we're done, right? So we're supposed to get back 4 of the coal back. Alright, so in order to find out how much energy we spend, we simply issue this command. So what you see is basically we spent 25 megawatts, okay, doing this sort of thing. And the amount of energy that you get here is 57 megajoules, okay? I said megawatt, I actually meant megajoules. So 4 times 57 minus the amount of energy we spent, which was 25, approximately 25 megajoules. So the net that we get is about 203 megajoules, okay, divided by the 4 coal stack. Therefore, we're getting roughly 50 megajoules in net energy that we could burn elsewhere. Okay, so this is a pretty good transformation, right? 24 coal is times 8 is 192 megajoules. And remember that coal is only 8 megajoules. So you went from 192 to, what was it? To 203 megajoules. So you basically stretch out a bit more, right? Minus 192. Let's see. You basically gave yourself 11 megajoules for free. This is significant, especially if you have, you know, a large stack of coal and you keep on doing this. Coupled with the high efficiency boiler as well as high efficiency steam turbine, you can stretch your coal stack quite a bit. So you can do the same thing with the wood. Okay, I won't demonstrate the wood, but the wood also give you net energy return as long as you use the efficiency modules. Okay. So the other one that we saw was, of course, these batteries down here. Now the batteries have 2 use. You use the battery in making accumulators. Yuoki accumulators require batteries. At least a certain type of accumulator requires batteries, okay? The other use is, of course, if you are really in a pickle for energy and you need some kind of fuel in order to burn, you can make these batteries as a stand-in, okay? So I also have created, of course, a setup, okay, that makes batteries. So I wanted to show you that this in fact yields you net positive energy. So this has already been, I put all the stuff that's needed into each of these wooden chests here. So I gave it enough coal, I mean not coal but copper ore, as well as the chunks that are needed in order to make just enough of the intermediate material so that we can make just enough of these batteries, okay? I believe we should be making 6. So I'm going to power it now, and we'll watch it a little bit. So the reason why I had 2 of these crushers was because it was very difficult to balance one crusher against 2 machines, because both of these machines requires crush green chunks. So instead of making something complicated, I decided to just go ahead and make 2 crushers. But of course, you know, in a real production, you wouldn't have this. You just have one line of crushed materials providing both of these assembler. Now, could I have went with advanced assembler? Of course. Okay, could have went with that. It might have, in fact, decreased your power usage a bit. We're almost done. So by the 6th one, I should disconnect. There we go. All right, so we should also take a look. What do you know? So even though batteries are not the same as coal, okay, the process to make batteries seems to also spend a similar or proportional amount of energy for each of the accumulators. Okay, of course you spend more, but proportionally each accumulator also decreased by a similar amount. That's a rather strange coincidence. So how much do we actually use? So each of those have what, 30 megajoules. So 30 megajoules minus what we use, which is 24,227,724 times 3. Okay, so we spent about 17 megajoules, okay, to make the 6 battery packs. Okay, and each of these battery packs gives you 38 megajoules. So what we do is we take 6 times 38 megajoules minus what we have spent, and I did this calculation before, and you should come out to be around the same amount of energy, 210 megajoules. Okay, if you divide this amount by the 6 battery, then you get an average energy return of 35 megajoules. Not bad. Okay, so this is a bit more involved, yes, but you get a similar amount of energy back, okay, to the wood. So remember, the 4 of the wood here is about 200 megajoules. 6 of the battery is about 200 megajoules, okay, roughly. So this way you can have a stand-in for your energy production while you're working on getting a more permanent solution. Okay, remember that these batteries are mainly to make these accumulators over here, not this type, but the other type of accumulators that I will talk about. So that's for the batteries. Okay, as long as you have the blue chunks, green chunks, and some of the vanilla ore, you're good to go. Alright, let's talk about the other ones that I have not talked about. So of this, of course, is the mixed solid fuel block, as well as the enriched fuel block. The mixed solid fuel block is simply coal dust plus crushed green chunk. So if you have coal dust left over, or you have enough coal as well as green chunks, you can go ahead and make this fuel. If you press this mixed solid fuel block with the pellet form of the green chunk, then you get another fuel that is 38 megajoules. Okay. So there remains basically 2 fuel that we have not talked about, well, 3. One is the transmuted UCA2, and the other one is the infused mud. Okay, and the last and final one is the fuel cell C. Now, actually, I forgot. I left out one thing. It's right here. Alien fuel cell. Okay, alien fuel cell is, in my opinion, a interim fuel. Right. After you have run through your batteries, if these batteries are not sufficient to sustain you, then the next thing you do is alien fuel cell. Okay. So alien fuel cell is made kind of like a battery. In fact, it looks just kind of like a battery. What it is a more beefy version of the batteries. You basically combine lots and lots of the green chunks and blue chunks together in order to make this alien fuel cell. You will go through quite a bit of the green and blue chunks just to fuel your base. So it's sort of like a new form of coal. Okay. But the ultimate fuel for your base is going to be this guy here, the transmuted UCA2 or this infused mud. Okay, depending on how you want to deal with it. Infused mud, of course, you know, come from dirt. You wash the dirt, you get wet contaminated dirt. The dirt, you press them, you get dry mud ball. And once you get dry mud balls, you can infuse them with this machine here called the Alien Infuser. Something about this machine, it has a very high energy consumption, 100 megawatt. So if you're going to use it regularly, you're best to put efficiency modules in them. Otherwise, then you will really be spending a bulk of your energy just trying to run this guy. Okay. As soon as you put just two efficiency 2 modules in, you see that it reduces down to 20 megawatt. Now that's a sizable reduction. In fact, that reduction will make or break your kind of like the perpetual wheel here. So the way that you eventually will power your base is you will infuse either mud or unicomp and use the net gain in energy from that infusion process and fuel the boilers. Okay, so what I mean by that, you notice that mud balls themselves have a fuel value. Okay, so they are 10 megajoules. Now, what I tell you about the values of the mud ball, well, they don't really have much value, right? Because eventually you will be using the obelisk reactor. Remember that it has, I haven't talked about it, but it has a 25 megawatt power rating at 90% efficiency. So at 10 megajoules, this is half of the power rating of the obelisk reactor. Okay, you put this into the obelisk reactor, it would just go whoosh and gone. The thing will just eat it up. It's not really good for the obelisk reactor. In fact, it will decrease the efficiency of the reactor. So in order to turn this poor fuel into a high value fuel, you have to infuse it. You notice that in order to infuse it, you must spend 16 seconds of energy. Okay, now if you had put efficiency module in this machine, you notice that the consumption is 20 megawatt. What that means is that in 16 seconds, you would have spent 320 megajoules. Okay, and what you get? You get 10 of the infused mud for 10 of the dry mud ball that you put in, and for each of them you get 80 megajoules back. Okay, so totally that's 800 megajoules, right? Minus 320, it means that you get a net of 480 megajoules. So this is free energy, energy that somehow is liberated from the mud. Okay, when you burn it. Don't ask me how, it just works. So what that means is effectively you have turned your mud ball from a 10 megajoule value into a 48 megajoule fuel. Okay, that's a significant increase. This is on par with grinding your coal and then compressing them, right? So the other one, of course, operates on a similar principle. You transmute the unicomp. Remember that unicomp is a resource that is derived, right? As long as you have any other vanilla resources, any other Yuoki resources, or even the oil themselves, right? You can make unicomp. So it only makes sense to actually be burning this stuff that you can transmute from all over the place. So what do you have here? You will have to infuse this for 60 seconds. Okay, at 20 megawatt multiplied by 60, it means that you are spending 1.2 gigajoules. But the fuel that you get back is worth 3 gigajoules. So therefore you have a net of 1.8 gigajoules. So that's a lot of fuel. Okay, so effectively each of your transmuted unicomp will net you 1.8 gigajoules for free. Okay, so you have to think about how this works in terms of time scale, right? If you have a fuel that runs every 60 seconds, and every 60 seconds you get a net of 1.8, but the fuel burns for 3 gigajoules, it means that you can take 3 gigajoules or 3000 megajoules divided by 60 seconds. So One of these infuser here will allow you to run a rating of 50 megawatt. So one of the infuser will allow you to power your base. If your total consumption of the base is 50 megawatt, that infuser is sufficient. Okay, so what that means, it means you're going to have to run at least two obelisk. Okay, you can combine an obelisk reactor with a highly efficient steam turbine in order to make this work. Okay. So we'll get about the turbine in a bit. So in the second recording, I think we'll talk about turbines. So this covers the infusion, right? So this is the ultimate fuel, well, next to ultimate fuel. The real ultimate fuel is in fact the fuel cell C. Now this cannot be crafted. You're gonna have to beg. That's the best way to put it. So what do? You don't actually beg anybody, but you beg the aliens, right? I don't know where this ancient monument came from, but I'm guessing that it has something to do with the aliens. Maybe. I don't know. It's purple. Looks like aliens. That's how I will look at it. Okay. So, let me explain how this ancient monument works. What it is, it's really an assembler. Okay. But it's basically sit there and you spend energy in order to get some reputation. And it is this reputation that you trade in another building called the Lakai Gate. Now this building has multiple uses, but one of the uses is of course to trade in reputation. It recently had a nice graphic too. This is a new graphic. So you see you can trade in trains, okay? Of course, you shall see. So there you go. This building is also power hungry. So unless you want to always spend, 133 kilowatts all the time, I suggest you take this thing off the grid and put it surrounded with a lot of beacons with efficiency modules to decrease the energy consumption down, because at 28 megawatt that's pretty high price. So recently I told Yuoki that this ancient monument you couldn't walk between, right? So he made a change. So now you can actually walk between them. This is very good because this guy used to take up a lot of my space and I couldn't walk between them. Anyway, so you spend 1800 seconds in order to get a reputation. Okay? And these buildings cost you 1.4 megawatts. And something else you have noticed is that you cannot put efficiency modules in them. So what does that mean? You're going to have to surround these with some kind of beacon layout with efficiency modules to reduce the energy consumption, right? Why do you want to do that? Well, if you don't do that and you just leave it straight like this, it just simply means that your net energy gain is going to be less. Okay. How do you figure the energy gain? Well, one reputation is equivalent to 10 gigajoules, right? And you get one reputation every 1800 seconds, right? So gross power that you can power with the fuel cell C is essentially 10,000 divided by 1800, right? This come out to be around 5.55 megawatt. So as you can see, you're going to need a lot of these ancient monuments, okay, in order to power your base. So if you have a base that eats 80 megawatts, right, you're going to have to need at least, let's see, 80 divided by 0.5, right? You're going to need at least 15 of these ancient monument in order to have a little excess. Okay. By the way, these are not cheap. These ancient monuments are not cheap. Okay. You can see they require an alien infuser, a UPS flywheel, as well as some amount of unit comp, right? Both the alien infuser as well as the UPS flywheel are not cheap to make. Okay. They're also high-end material, so especially the infuser. So if you have access to profit from war, there's two more buildings that can actually be used to generate reputation. The one that on the left here is called the Nacelle Theory Center, Theory Crafting Center. It too is a very expensive building, okay, but it crafts reputation faster, right? So the crafting speed is 2, therefore instead of 1800 seconds, it takes only 900 seconds to craft this stuff. But you notice too that it consumes more power. So again, you're going to have to do something with the beacons, okay? And the final building is this, be rich and show this. This is the, I kid you not, this is the actual name of the building. And the reason why he named it this way, because it's actually a very expensive building, okay? I don't want to talk too much about it, but if you take a look, this building requires something called catalex, okay, as well as 4 of the Nacelle Theory Crafting Center. The Nacelle Theory Crafting Center requires 250 catalex, right? So totally, this guy requires 250 times 5, or 1250 catalex. 1250 catalex. You know how much that is? Well, catalex is a material that cannot be made. Okay, you can either trade for this catalex, or you have to buy the catalex from what's called a trade node. If you buy it straight, then each catalex, as you can see, is 100 unicomp. Okay, so all you have to do is take 1250 multiply by 100, and you can see that that building there, okay, this building here, be rich and show this, costs you 125,000 unicomp. Now, if you're an advanced player and you have a humongous base, you know, maybe that is just a drop in the bucket. But you know, for most people who are just trying to, for people who have problems with their base and problem with their energy, this is really not a building for you, right? So this is why the name of this building called Be Rich and Show This. It means that once you have this building, well, you pretty much are made, right? So the crafting speed of this is 12. It means that you can get a higher, you can support a higher power drain, right? 10 megajoules, 10,000 megajoules divided by crafting speed of 12, right? 1800 divided by 12. It means that you, did I do that wrong? Yes. Oops, I did it. Yes, 10,000 divided by 12. 1800 divided by 12 is 150 seconds. So 10,000 divided by 150 seconds. Right? So you can support a gross power of 66.6 megawatt. Right? This is not talk about the net power, of course. Net power is lower, around 53 something megawatt. So that's that. That's the ultimate fuel. I went over the fuel, and now I will. Let's see. I'm supposed to talk a bit about. No, I don't have to talk about the boiler yet. The boiler will come in the next episode. Alright, so I will see you in the next episode.